are you? So, before I get into the How Busy AF People Get Organized webinar, I wanted to give a big shout out to the Life Coach University, which is a pay it forward platform that I'm a part of, providing free coaching webinars, or PIFs as we like to call them. And we have a number of amazing free workshops and coaching that you should go and check out. But welcome. So, if you do not know me, my name is Michelle Kevill. I am a certified life coach with a life coach school. I teach people how to process really big emotions and create a work life balance. I'm also the host of my own podcast called How to Deal with Big F Word Feelings. And I also work in a fast paced corporation as an analyst. I recently got engaged. I have a puppy and two small guinea pigs named Chewy and Vader. I am super excited to have you here and teach you the system that I use to help you get busy as F. So let's get into it. All right. So what is it? What is the system that I am talking about? And a little agenda to go through today is I'll be taking you through what it is, how this system is going to change your life, how to use it, and the worksheets that are going to help you manage your mind, including some Q&A if we have some time towards the end. And if you have come from my platform or my ad, you may have the actual system, but not the worksheets. And I will be sending this out after this recording, but you have to be on my subscriber list to get that. So if you're on the subscriber list, great. If not, just check out my Instagram and you'll be able to subscribe and sign up. So what is it? What am I talking about? What I've basically created is something to help you basically get organized. So for context, I used to be that person in corporate that would always say, I'm busy as F, hence the name of this. And I was always just having so much going on in my mind. And I realized that there were systems out there that were helpful, but were lacking in some areas for me. So I created a system that has really helped me get organized. I believe it's helped me to get a promotion in my corporate job. And as part of that, I also have some supporting worksheets, which you'll get after this, which is the mind management part. So it's just one system and mind management. That's really what this is. The system is the easy part. It's so easy because like if we were all robots and just followed it, you'd be able to get it done. But the fact is, we're not. We're humans and we have human thoughts and we have all this stuff going around in our brains. And the most important part is mind management. It's being able to manage your thoughts, manage your mind as you're going through the system and as your day is progressing and changing. So we break it down even further. Actually, no, that's not what I put here. If we actually go through why this would be super helpful for you, this is for you if you are currently feeling really overwhelmed, if you are forgetting tasks, if you are losing track of time, if you don't know where things are at, or you're having challenges dealing with priorities changing, or you're constantly playing catch up, or you're known for saying, I am busy AF. And why this is going to be super life changing is if this resonates with you, if you're looking at this saying, yes, this is me, this is all of me, this is how I'm feeling right now, then what you are is you're in a constant state of anxiety. So if we go through that, because out of everything out of this workshop, I want you to take away this drawing. Probably can't see the little purple things that I've written. So when our anxiety is high and it is turned on, when our stress response, fear, worry, rumination, all of that is playing up, can't see it very well. When that is having a hissy fit, let's just move it down a bit. There you go. What happens is it turns off our prefrontal cortex. And the prefrontal cortex is so important for cognition, rational thinking, and planning. And that's what we need now, especially in a corporate job. We need to be able to, think, plan? How do we respond? I'm an analyst, so I really do definitely need that part of my brain when I'm doing any code or analysis. The issue is when our thoughts are getting to the better of us, when we are feeling overwhelmed and there are so many things going on, what happens is our limbic system, probably can't see, it's a bit pink, that turns on. And that is our fight or flight response. That is our stress response. That is there to keep you safe in case there is actual danger. And it is what has kept us alive. And it is creating this anxiety. The problem is when that is turned on, this is turned off. So you're not as organized, you're not as planned, and you are running on in a state of anxiety. Now, what this system does is it gets you to lessen the anxiety. What I like to call is like soothe or pet your limbic system, pet your lizard brain, and turn this back on. That's what the system helps you to do. And it funnels you and guides you through everything. It guides you through all the drama at the start that's going on in your head and gets you to a place where you start to become more planned, you start to become more organized, and you're able to execute and get things done. And what's going to accompany this is mind management, which is also going to help with this part as well. Some of those beliefs, some of those thoughts that you have, and really bring it down. And out of everything you take away, this is so important. This information is key and so knowledgeable, because I've said this so many times. I'm so passionate about this, but the challenge in corporate today is that we really do need to be using our prefrontal cortex more. And to do that, we need to be lessening this part of our brain a little bit more. And it can be challenging sometimes to do that. And we have to sometimes learn how to do that on our own or with whatever is happening at the time. And what I found was some of the tools and systems that I had were helpful, but I wanted to elaborate on those. I wanted to be a guided process, especially when I'm like feeling frantic in the morning. And I wanted something to support my mind as well. So what you will create, therefore, from this system or from this program is you're going to be more relaxed. You're going to actually start to enjoy your job. You're going to have the ability to take breaks. You're going to work faster and more efficiently. You're actually going to know where everything is at, and you're going to be able to handle priorities changing. But most importantly, you're going to be creating value. These are all the things that I was able to do with this system and the mind management. And the reason being is when you turn on your prefrontal cortex, guess what? You work more efficiently. You stop working hard, you start working smart. You're not running off the anxiety brain, which the anxiety brain is set for lions and tigers. And we are not in that. It's just the biggest disconnect with our prefrontal cortex and where we're at the moment. We need that for the 21st century. And that's what I found was causing a lot of the overwork in myself and my clients. It's running off this anxiety. It's running off some of these thoughts and beliefs that I need to keep working, even when you're in a state of complete stress and deprivation. When you're able to implement a system that supports you and works for you, you're able to have something that's really for treating you as a human and not a robot, then you're able to create a whole heap of value for yourself and also for the company as well. Because that's what I started to do. I worked less, but I was getting more output out because I was treating myself better. I was treating myself with, like, when it came to breaks, really honoring my time, and, tweaking the system as well to kind of like suit me and where I'm at, and doing all the mind management on the side to create I like to call like a self-sustaining little organized garden, if you will. And once you start to build that for yourself, you start to love your job again. I really enjoy being an analyst. I didn't 2 years ago enjoy being in corporate because my head was all over the place and I felt like I was always overworking, and I just did not have a system that supported me and my needs. And that's what I really encourage as well as part of this. Take what you like from this and also go ahead and adapt it as well to something that suits you. So here, like the first part of this is something that was really crucial for me and something that I really needed to start implementing in order to help guide me from that kind of anxious, frantic state to this more organized plan execution. And we'll see that in a second because the system is really put into 4 steps. First, we have what I like to call the to-do dump truck. And it's like a funnel. It guides you. This is where you're all stressed out and you got things going on and oh my God and oh, whatever. Then it guides you to the second part, which I like to call to do, prioritize, and organize. It's 2 systems or 2 little steps that help you get organized and help you organize your thoughts. Here's the thing. Most systems I found were like, do a to-do list and then start organizing it. And I was like, no. I can't organize yet until I get all my stuff out and all my thoughts out. So I've broken it down into 3 parts for you. And the organized part is very guided to really help you slowly get from that stressed out, I have all these thoughts in my head, to this, I know what I need to do, to how do I organize it, what's more important, to then the planning section. And the planning is where you know what you need to do, you know the priority, you just now need to schedule it in the calendar. And there's a whole heap of stuff around this as well. And what's really important around how to schedule in like breaks for yourself, why they're really important, how to honor your time. And you'll see as well how to handle what I call little work emergencies, something that I don't believe has really been addressed in some planning and organization, tools and workbooks that I've used before, which is how to handle when like things change, which is what I've got documented here. And you'll see that in the execute and done stage. And execute is where you go do it. But again, life happens. And when life happens, how do you handle little work emergencies? How do you handle like your boss saying, hey, this urgent priority has come through, but you've got all this stuff planned up? How do you handle that? That would happen all the time in my workplace. And I needed to get really clear on a system and how to also articulate the changes as well. So there's a system, and then there's worksheets around to support that as well. And then there's done. Something that not enough people do is they don't look at what they have done. They're always looking at what I need to do still, what I didn't get to. But they haven't looked at what I have completed or anything like that. And that's really important to take note of, because it's going to help you, especially towards the end of the week when you've worked out what you have been doing, what you haven't been doing, why haven't you been doing that other stuff, what you've been able to do, and do things need to shift. So there's a practical reason as well. Also because like you should be celebrating what you're doing, and that's also amazing. But also to understand and see what your time is focused on. Maybe you potentially need to shift depending on what your team structure or what you'll be doing. And then from that, you're able to create value. I like to remind people that humans are animals and we do, to a certain extent, like we need structure. And when we give our brains the structure, we can go off it. And when we have the structure around my management as well, that's going to really help us. And it's from that place where we can be the most creative and create some value for ourselves. Hence why I created this literally as a start for myself and then for my clients, because I just kept seeing this pattern throughout all, like the same pattern of overwork, of there's too much to do, of all just too much. So let's get into it. Okay. So the to-do, so number 1. So it's 1 system, 4 buckets, 6 steps. And the first one is called the to-do dump truck. And this is where you list out everything you need to do, or as I like to call it, emptying the handbag. So our brains are like my handbag, which is filled with 20 lipsticks and receipts. And every month I need to empty it all out and go through it and get it organized. And that's what we do at this part. And I've never seen another system address this. Most of the times we go into to do prioritization. We start writing down in order. Problem with that is you have to think about what's more important. You're nowhere near that stage yet. You, if you're like me at the start, have 30,000 things in your brain related to completely different things. Maybe it's work, maybe it's picking up the kids, maybe it's that birthday party on the weekend. And you almost got to get it out. It's like you got to get that energy out. And you can't be creating, like I also say, a pretty organized list isn't going to get the job done. So this is where you get a bit messy at the to-do dump truck start. This is where you list out everything, all your stuff, everything in your head. You just get it out. I recommend people to type this, but again, it depends on you. If you prefer to write lists out, go ahead. My to-do dump truck, I always type out. So I type faster than I write. And it's just like a stream of consciousness. It's like word vomit. It's just coming out and it relates to anything and everything. And then once I've done that, it's like, great, I've gotten it all out. My brain has been taken out, all the thoughts swishing around in my head. I've emptied that handbag and I've got it documented. That's the key thing. Because then we move on to do priorities. Because from your dump truck, what you're going to do is you're going to look for all the key things that need to get done. You want to start focusing your attention on what must get done today, week, etc. So you want to look at the time frame and the type of list. Your lists are like mine. You've written everything down there. But what is this to-do list going to be for, right? Is it going to be for, work, your business on the, that you're working on, that other project, that home thing, whatever it is? What's the time frame? Is this for a week, a couple of days? If you are working using this for corporate, I suggest typically it's for the week. And yeah, it's obviously focusing on corporate tasks. And it's starting to get your brain to focus. Do you see what I'm doing here? It's like, this is the exercise where you're kind of getting all that anxiety and stress out. And this is the part where we just start to transition to turning on our prefrontal cortex. We start to get a little more organized. We have it all on paper. Now we're going to look at, all right, where's the work stuff? So I want to do this for work. Where's the work stuff? All right, what are the key? Okay, I want to do this in a week. What are the key things I want to do in a week? And we start to get that organized. And your real focus on this is just, what do I need to do? What are the key things I need to focus on this week? We're not even at ordering it yet. That's the next part. That's what I mean. It is guided here to really help you through this, to really just get it out, start to focus it, and then organize it. And that part's really important. I'm just going to take a sip of water. Okay. So then we go on to do organization. Now, if you've worked in corporate, you have very likely seen this matrix before. And this is the issue I had with it. I always tried to go straight to this matrix and it never worked. And now I know why, because I needed to do the other two steps. I needed to get my thoughts organized and I just didn't have that. So you need to be doing the first two parts first, because now what we're doing is we've got a dump, we've got priorities, and now we're going to organize those priorities. We're like, you can see it, we're funneling our brain. We're going from unorganized to organized. We're getting our brain to take things out. And the matrix is going to assist with the execution part as well. So what we do, and what you can see here, if you've seen this before, how it works is there's effort here, and then there's priority here. So high, low, low, high. And how you do is you fill it out from left to right to back down here to here. And what you focus on is at the start, there are quick wins. So that's high priority, low effort, hence they are quick wins. They're your urgent things, but they can easily be done. They're not going to have that much investment or effort in them. Then you have your major projects. What are your major projects? Well, they're important, but they need more time. So it's high effort, high priority, and you likely need to be in here. When I'm doing this for myself, I actually have to schedule time in my diary to think about how to plan these projects out. So yes, that can be done as well, and that's also really important. Then you move on from, so we've gone to the high part here, then you go to low priority, low effort, or the fill-ins. These, I really recommend booking these in advance because 99 times out of 100, those fill-ins end up turning into quick wins. They end up coming back up on the list. Like, it's one of those ones where it's like an email and you're like, yeah, I have time, I get to it. And then all of a sudden the date's there and you're like, oh crap. It's like, and then the quick wins start to fill up really fast with everything else you got going on. So if you can plan it out and just stick to it, that's fine. It can be in that week. My quick wins I usually would do towards the end of the week, or I would actually schedule it out until like a next, maybe in like a couple of weeks time or something like that. Yes. So that's usually what I recommend. It just depends for you. And then there's thankless tasks. And thankless tasks are high effort but low priority. And they typically actually give you the most like value. Now, I know that sounds a bit different because a lot of people will say, wouldn't it be these two? These are happening all the time. You have to answer queries, you have to work on major projects, and obviously I'm giving you a corporate example. Thankless tasks to me are things like, how do we optimize the process that we're already doing? How do we work more efficiently, faster, create that SOP, whatever. That is always put on the back burner because we have so much to do. However, if you can schedule your time, I typically like to schedule at least 1 hour a week to work on this. So at least something is getting done in the background on this thing, because they are the things that do create that the value is just more impactful across the board. The challenge is there's just so much going on and getting time to do it. So if you can do it like by piecemeal, like just a little bit each week, you're going to be getting somewhere at least. Yes. Okay. I'm going to take some more water. Just give me a second, guys. Right. Okay. Then we have plan and organize. This is where you take your matrix and we start to plan it out. So you see those first 3 steps, how we are funneling your brain and we're getting to turn on parts of your prefrontal cortex more. And planning and organizing, if you don't do this, like, you need to do this. And I'll tell you why in a second. So what you need to do is you need to start booking things in your diary in advance for that week of things to work on. And you have an allocated time in your diary that you're going to sit and you're going to work on it. And this is the order that you do it. And again, this is important too. Breaks, appointments, anything like that, book that in first. Please keep it. Everyone books in their major projects and all like that first. No, you're not a robot. You need to eat. And part of this you'll see, and I talk about this a lot in my podcast as well, is the importance, especially for me, I'm an analyst. I need those breaks during the day to be able to have that rest time to kind of turn on my prefrontal cortex again. It's almost like restarting your computer for a little bit or putting it into sleep mode. It's just going to help it work just that little bit better. So it's really important to book those in. The second thing you want to book in is general admin. And I'm talking about like setting up time to check emails, respond to messages, etc. And maybe you want to do that like 30 minutes in the morning or like 30 minutes in the afternoon, just so you have that time and that the monitoring of that stuff. Then you want to fill in your matrix, and you do it from like that, like the. So the quick wins, the projects, the fill-ins, and the thankless tasks. Now, why is this important to do it? Humans are really crap at planning and executing at the same time. It's like a whole thing around decision fatigue. Like we're really bad at it. And it's why I see a lot of my clients like, oh, I have so much work to do, like all this stuff, whatever. It's like in that moment, especially when you're in an anxious state, you're not able to think clearly or plan and organize, like plan it and then execute it. You want to do that all in advance. You want to just like do it in. So I do this on a Monday morning for about 30 minutes to an hour. I do a whole heap of planning. And that is so helpful for me because all the thinking work is gone. I don't have to think in the moment, should I do this? Should I do that? It's just all planned out for me. All I got to do is execute now. That's it. And that's why planning in advance is so important. And that's right, I talk about this a little bit. You'll see this, the pink writing, which is a bit challenging to see because you plan it, you organize it, you go do it. Well, and that's the next step. It's execute. You do it. You stick to it. You do it. You have time scheduled to look at your email and respond to messages. You do the allocated work that you need to do. That means you have to put yourself in do not disturb to work on that project for like an hour or two. Then go do that. You're going to need that time to sit there and focus and do the work. So what happens then when you have what I call little work emergencies and no system was addressing this? So the challenge I had was a lot of organized tips and stuff for like, do the thing, do it. What happens when you get a call from your boss and all of a sudden you have to work on this, like something urgent has happened, there's a report or a presentation or something's gone, wrong or whatever, and you need to focus on it. You need to do it. What do you do then? You can't say, well, you can say no, but what's happened is the priorities have changed, and that's just part of life. And I wanted to cater for that. I needed to work out how to cater for that in my own job. So this is what I call little work emergencies. So what you do is the time that you had dedicated to that project. So say you were about to work on project A, but now you've been told you need to work on project X. Time you had dedicated to project A is now going to project X, and it just shifts to the next day. What you then do, and you need to do this straight away, you need to write down what you were going to do and why it shifted. That is so important. The reason that is important is because if you're like me in the fast-paced environment that I work in, priorities are always changing. And the problem is we're humans and we forget. And then later down the line, a stakeholder or a manager asks you, oh, how's that other project going? And then you're sitting there like, I don't know. Again, when I was saying before, priorities are changing and you don't know where your tasks are at. This helps you know where your tasks are at. And you can articulate that. And then you just have raw evidence to be like, well, I wasn't able to work on this because these and these changed. Like, here's my plan, or here's what I need to do, or do we need to shift this to work on it? That is super helpful, not just for you, but for your manager and the corporation as well. And it's really important. And if you can't shift it to the next day, like say that, you just have to do that other project, that's fine. Still write it down. Still write down what happened. If the shift happened, write it down. Like, write this down. Because sometimes you'll be working on like my area, things will change. And it's just that good awareness, which you'll see in the next part too, to understand what is it that you're working on, what's challenging and what is shifting. And then what you're able to do let's see, done. You're able to do this and done. This actually links up really well to my next part, being done. No one does this, and people need to do it more. At the end of the week on a Friday, for about 30 or so minutes, I write down and look at everything that I have completed, and I have a mini celebration. I'm like, yes, this is great. Like, look at everything that I did this week. Wow. I also write down what I didn't complete, what had to shift out in my diary because of a little work emergency, or like, again, you're going to do this system and you're going to fail the first time you do it. That's okay. I would overbook my calendar. I had to learn how to do that, and the worksheets will help you manage this. But yeah, you're able to have that reflection time to look at, what am I doing? What am I doing right? What am I, want to change? And again, it gives you just that evidence to say, well, this is what I've been working on. I wasn't able to work on this because I was working on this. You're able to also observe and look at your own time and be like, actually, I should be focusing more on this stuff, but I seem to be focusing on this stuff. Why is that? What do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to, etc.? It gives you, like, here's the thing. It helps as well if you're at the end of the day, just quickly writing what you're doing. Because if you're like me, like I do that every day because I forget. And you just have that information all with you. You have that all there. You remember it and you know the facts of what happened. You're on top of it. It just takes 2 seconds to do. And then you're on top of your tasks. You know where they're at. And that's going to help you with planning for next week. This is so important. Knowing what you have and haven't done and doing that in a non-judgmental way is just, it's going to just really help you. And I just found this like so impactful for me once I started doing this. All right. Great. I have another sip of water. I'm really thirsty. Okay. Moving on. So the worksheets. And again, you'll get this if you're on my mailing list, which you should. Because I have given you the system, but just not the worksheets. And the worksheets are great because here's the thing, the system is the easy part. The hard part is managing your mind around this. And these worksheets are going to help you, and they go around the key areas that I was struggling with when it came to sticking with the system and the schedule, and also what I saw in my clients as well. So there are 4 key worksheets, and they go through and list as well what's really going to be helpful for you. So the first one is urgency, but it's basically just urge management. This is when you have trouble sticking to your scheduled time because of emails or because you haven't want to respond to others. Really, this is an urge. You're focusing on that thing and you see the orange flashy dingy thing in the corner and that person's messaging you and you really want to respond back to them ASAP, but you know you have this project that you want to work on. That is your stress response wanting to throw out the whole plan and say, we need to respond to that person. It's just urge management. So what we look at is we observe the urge, we go through your thoughts and why it's a problem. We go through the sensations of the urge, the physical sensations. We start to get in your body and what does that feel like? You start to write down and articulate what happens when you resist versus engage with the urge. What are you thinking, feeling, your actions, and what results are you creating? You want to see both and you want to write it down on paper. This stuff sounds basic, but it's so different when you're doing this and you're stuck in your own head than when you write it down on paper and it's articulated. You can use more of your prefrontal cortex to see it instead of being in that stress response. And then we look at as well, like, how do you want to feel instead when this urge comes up? Like, what do you want to do? Because you can see the results that you're getting now. You can see what happens when you answer that email or whatever when you're doing that project. You can see how it's impacting you. What results do you want to create now? And so there's some terms in there they use called unintentional intentional models, and you'll see all of that as well. That's elaborated in the worksheets too. That is really, really good. I had trouble with this a lot. I would always want to just, I instinctively wanted to respond to people. Like I always wanted to have a clean inbox and messages. And some of it could have been people pleasing, but I think it's like when you see something flashing in the background, a thing pop up, it just took me out of that concentration mode. And that focus is really important. That state of flow, sometimes they call it, to get some of your best and most creative work done. So honoring that is really important. And it's not just going to benefit, it benefits everyone. It benefits the person, the stakeholder that's probably asking for stuff. And it's going to benefit like you and the company to be able to have that time to focus and to do that work. The next one is compassionate scheduling. This is my favorite one by far. This is when you are overbooking yourself and you aren't completing tasks in time, or you have absolutely no time for yourself. It's absolutely amazing because it gets you to look at how would you schedule your time this way for a friend. People are terrible at scheduling their time for themselves. Most of my clients, including myself, are high achievers and think they're robots, don't need to eat or breathe, and overbook their calendar. And then wonder why they were exhausted or they couldn't get it all done. And what we get you to do is to really look at your current schedule and calendar and what you think of it. I ask you why you're booking it this way. And are you accomplishing what you want to do? Why or why not? I get you to ask if this was a best friend, this was a best friend's calendar, what would you say to them? Would you calendar this way? Like, say, I don't know if you're a parent, say if you saw your kid calendaring this way, what would you say to them? How would you feel? And then I get you to do a model on these thoughts and around your schedule. I want you to see the results that you're creating for yourself when you schedule this way. And I get you to look at how you could be a little bit more kinder to yourself when scheduling time in and what actions you could take. And a tip being how you respond to your friend that, like if this was a friend and how you responded, that's the advice you're going to give yourself. That's the advice you're going to take. So literally is an action in there. There's a question around, if this is your friend, blah, 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 like what advice would you say to them? Like what do you think of it? And then what advice would you give to them? And this is so helpful because it gets you to realize that you have different rules and expectations for yourself versus other people. You are likely kinder to other people than yourself. And you potentially, I never liked myself because I would overbook myself and I would overwork and I wouldn't let myself have a rest. If I was doing that to a friend, I would not have a friend. It's just me. It's not very nice. And when you start to understand your own system, you start to understand what works for you and get in tune with your body and how you work and how you think, that is when you are the most efficient and you can get more done in less time. It's crazy. Working long hours can mean nothing if you're not getting really good value out, come out right. And this is the interesting thing that we forget, because when you're exhausting yourself physically, emotionally, and mentally, again, you're just turning on that stress response. And you're not, I don't want to, the way I think of it is you're not working. It's almost like busy work. You're just working off a place of anxiety. Don't get me wrong, you get stuff done, but you can get it done faster when you honor your time, when you're not overworking late into the night, when you're really being compassionate with yourself, especially when you start this and say, hey, like that is a big tip as well. Take this and know that you will fail at the start. That's okay. You're still learning what works for you. So I'm very clear and realize that I definitely need to take a 1 hour lunch break. And I'm honor that. I really, really honor that. If I have a meeting over lunch, I will just shift my break out, because what I have found 99.999% of the time, every time I've taken that break, say I'm stuck because I'm an analyst, right? I'm stuck on code. So I'm having an issue with some code. I take a break, come back. The issue is like 2 seconds, no more issue. And it's because I'm stuck in that overthinking stress response. Then I go away. What also happens too is your brain sometimes has some time to just think about it and let it gel a little bit in the subconscious. And then I go back and I've saved time. Instead of like working for another like 3 hours to fix the problem, I fixed it in like 20 minutes. That's more work in less time. And that is why it's so important. And I'm really big on compassionate scheduling and scheduling out your time and breaks and not overworking like late into the night and stuff like that, because it can just get you back into that anxious state. And we're working in a different mode and we're not working from the prefrontal cortex. So, moving on. Oh my God, I do not want to have this fall over. That's my biggest fear, that this thing will fall. But we're okay. We're cool. So the next is priorities. And this is when your stress is completely out of control and it can be hard to work out what is the most important. So I have a worksheet for you that takes you through how to figure this out, especially when everything feels really important. And there's a couple of questions to ask yourself. But what it does really is it just gets you out of your own head. Gets you, oh wait, that's the other one says gets you out. Oh, that gets you out of other people's heads. But the third one actually gets you out of your own head. It gets you out of the stress response and to work out what's most important. So, and this will happen less if you follow the system. What can sometimes happen is you have some tasks, you've planned them out, and then all of a sudden you're getting to those tasks and you're like, oh, maybe I should be working on that one because of this. And then, oh, and this one has a lot more focus and people are talking more about this one. Well, you're all in your own head and you start overthinking what you should be working on. So this takes you through 4 questions, just 4 simple questions to ask yourself to go through. That helps you get out of your own head and look at the facts on paper to figure out, should I still be working on this? Should priorities change? 90% of the time for me, it shouldn't change. It's that I've gotten into an anxious state and then all of a sudden I'm thinking this is really important. And it's one again, it's my mind, my stress response wanting to throw the plan out the window. So the questions you ask yourself are, what are my time frame? When is the item due? What is the outcome for not getting the thing done? Can it be pushed out? Now, the outcome for not getting the thing done, facts, people. It's got to be facts. It's got to be factual, not loaded with emotion like my boss will get angry at me. It's got to be pure things like the slide will miss that stat. That's how you got to break it down. You got to get your brain facts. You got to get out of your head, write it down, and then re-see that or whatever on paper. So your prefrontal cortex can take that in a little bit more and be like, oh, actually, this thing is important. Or actually, this thing can be pushed out, or this is what we can do. Like we can talk to our manager, so and so, etc. And the fourth, and I would say is actually the most important one, is other people's thoughts. This is all about, this is so like, it's called other people's thoughts, but it's really about processing emotion and how do you handle yourself when you're fearful of other people's reactions and you need to articulate a deadline or a boundary. It's again, getting out of other people's heads. We're all humans. Like I said, humans are like animals. And we all have thoughts and fears, and we always have our stress response or limbic system wanting to like keep us safe. And sometimes what happens is it misinterprets things. And because of our belief system and our thoughts, whether we say, and there's nothing wrong with having a high work value or ethic and stuff like that. It's just understanding, are there some core beliefs and core thoughts that I have that are keeping me stuck because I fear of what other people will think of me, etc. And is that putting a block in getting the results that I want? So we look at a specific example, for example. So you would come to this with a specific example, say, I don't want to tell this person that I have to shift this out because I'm afraid, blah, blah, blah. We get you to go through what the problem is and why. you look at what would you be thinking if like this scenario happened and feeling. And then I get you to list the worst to best case scenario. Because another thing here as well is that humans have a negative bias. It kept us safe. Positive humans who were like, surely that bear won't be there at the river again, like died back in the cave ages. Because it's dangerous and potentially to get eaten by a bear. It was the negative humans. Those negative traits back then kept us safe. And what we also do is when we ruminate, we think of the worst case scenario that is going to happen. But I get you to list these out, same thing, listing it out on paper, getting it through the eyes of your prefrontal cortex. And you do an unintentional model on the worst case scenario. And you process the emotion and what comes up for you as well. Because what you're afraid of isn't what the person will say or do. You're afraid of how you are going to feel in that moment. Your brain is thinking to yourself that that thing you're worrying about is a direct threat to your survival. So I'm going to make you feel all the same feelings you would feel then now to avoid you from getting into actual danger. The issue is it doesn't realize we live in the 21st century and that this is, I don't know, like your boss or something like that. And the problem is it gets us stuck. It keeps us stuck in a cycle of potential like overwork, not articulating our needs, not having those open, just honest discussions. So it's actually like practicing that, going through those feelings, noticing that. And then we look from neutral and then we come up with some intentional models, but they go from like neutral to best case. Like, how do you want to think and feel? And then you take those new models and you experiment. The reason I like to do neutral is sometimes we're in such a state in this part of the worksheet that all we can think of is like an okay scenario. And this helps you to articulate on paper what is going on in your head and to really see what you can, like, what is happening, reabsorb it through the eyes of your prefrontal cortex. And it helps you to recognize what results at the end of the day do I want. Okay. So that is the end here. I'll see if there are any questions or answers. Looking like we're all good. Oh, thanks, guys. All right. Well, a big thank you to everyone and a massive thank you to the Life Coach University. They are an amazing platform. I really recommend you go check them out. They have a whole heap of workshops, amazing coaches who are doing other stuff as well. I really encourage you to go check them out. Yeah. And thank you so much for being with me as well. Again, come on the subscriber list if you want to get the worksheets for this as well. And if you're having any issues, message me. But yeah, bye for now, everyone. Bye.